The Orion Expanse was, by all measures, a forgotten corner of the galactic hegemony's sprawling territory. A cold stretch of space, littered with ancient debris-shattered remnants of civilizations long dead, relics of wars that had shaped the galaxy's turbulent history. Most fleets avoided the region, preferring the safer, more prosperous star systems closer to the core worlds. But something had changed. Deep within the star-streaked blackness, a signal had begun to pulse faint, encrypted, and utterly alien. It was buried beneath layers of static, a ghost among the cosmic noise. The signal's origin was far beyond the frontier, past the limits of any known outpost. Its pattern was unfamiliar, a rhythm no known species used. For weeks, the hegemony's listening post debated its significance. Then, finally, the Council decided to act. Admiral Reza Vaughn, veteran of 24 skirmishes and the youngest admiral in hegemony history, was given command of the scout fleet. A squadron of 6 sleek, heavily armed corvettes, the nimblest warships in the Armada, was dispatched to trace the signal to its source. "Prepare for long-range scans," Vaughn ordered, his voice steady but sharp. The bridge of the Sentinel's edge thrummed with quiet tension. Every officer knew this mission wasn't routine. The unknown in deep space had a way of becoming very real and deadly very fast. For days, the fleet navigated the emptiness. Their sensors sliced through the dark, mapping debris fields, scanning for life signs, and searching for the signal source. As they crossed into the coordinates, the signal grew stronger, pulsing with an almost hypnotic rhythm. But there was no answer when they broadcast a call. The signal was not a greeting. It was a beacon, an alarm, a marker, or a trap. At first, the scouts found only silence. Then, out of the blackness, a shape emerged. It was enormous, unlike anything in their databases. A ship, or perhaps a station. Its silhouette was jagged and enormous, dwarfed only by the dead star it orbited. It floated without movement, wrapped in a cloak of near invisibility, save for a faint, eerie glow that outlined its edges. "Unknown. Vessel, please identify yourself," Vaughn ordered, his voice calm despite the sinking feeling in his gut. No response. "Shields up." "Weapons ready," came the terse reply from the weapons officer. The corvettes formed a loose circle, their sensors sweeping every inch of the alien ship. Suddenly, the quiet shattered. A pulse of energy blasted from the warship, faster than light. The lead corvette's comms cut out mid-sentence. A flash of white-hot light engulfed the hull. Moments later, it vanished, a superheated cloud of plasma where the Vigilant had been. Vaughn's heart pounded. "All ships, fall back. Assess damage. Report status." But there was no time. Within minutes, the remaining 5 corvettes were overwhelmed. The warship moved with impossible speed, folding space around itself to strike. Again and again before the hegemony fleet could react. Each attack was precise and devastating, like a predator testing its prey. On the bridge of the Sentinel's edge, panic threatened to break through the disciplined calm. But Vaughn held steady, barking orders to retreat. They barely escaped with their lives, scarred and shaken. The unknown warship disappeared back into the void, leaving behind only destruction and questions. "Report to the Council," Vaughn said grimly. "They need to know what we faced." Back at the Council chambers on Hegemony Prime, the news hit like a shockwave. The vessel was unlike any known technology, too advanced, too terrifying. Worse, preliminary scans suggested the ship's design was human. Human? A species believed to be extinct for 6 millennia. Scholars had long considered humanity a failed experiment prone to self-destruction and insignificant in the cosmic hierarchy. But here was proof they might have survived, and if this warship was any indication, they'd evolved into something far more dangerous. The Council convened emergency meetings. Diplomatic envoys, military strategists, xenologists all scrambled for answers. The silence in the room was heavier than the void outside. And in the dark reaches of space, the silent warship waited. The destruction of the scout fleet sent ripples through the galactic hegemony like shockwaves from a supernova. Admiral Vaughn's report was grim and precise, but it could not convey the sheer terror that gripped those who had glimpsed the unknown warship firsthand. The Council responded swiftly, dispatching a second fleet, this time a full battle group of 20 heavy cruisers and escorts, 100 times the firepower of the lost corvettes. Lieutenant Commander Solara Miles stood on the bridge of the Vigilant's Wrath, the flagship of the new fleet, her hands clenched tightly around the railing. Despite the ship's vast size and advanced weaponry, the unease was palpable. Every sensor operator's eyes darted nervously over the displays, searching the black depths for the faintest hint of that shadowy enemy. The battle group slipped through the silence of space, following the last known coordinates of the warship. The dead star it orbited was still there, cold and distant, its feeble light swallowed by the vastness around it. But the warship itself was gone. There was no trace on any sensor, no energy readings, no emissions, no sign of movement. It was as if it had melted into the void. "Captain Miles," came the voice of Chief Engineer Harrow from behind her. "Sensors are still scrambled. We can't get a lock on any part of the ship's hull. It's like it's phased out. Phased out." The phrase echoed in her mind, chilling and unreal. Technology that could hide a vessel so completely was beyond the current grasp of hegemony science. "Keep scanning," Miles ordered. "If it's there, we will find it." Minutes ticked by, each second stretching longer than the last. Then, without warning, the warship reappeared right in the middle of the formation. It was immense, far larger than anything the fleet had encountered. Its black hull absorbed light, almost like a void in space itself. The ship had no visible markings or insignias. No lights, no thrusters, no signs of life. Just an immense, yawning darkness floating silently against the backdrop of the dead star. "Unknown vessel," Miles called out. "This is the Galactic Hegemony Battle Fleet. You are ordered to identify yourself and state your intentions." No response came. The silence was suffocating. "Status report," Miles demanded. "Shields are holding steady," replied the tactical officer. "But sensors are still being scrambled intermittently. Energy readings are off the charts, but completely unidentifiable. This ship is unlike any we've ever seen." Miles felt the cold press of dread settle over the bridge. This was no abandoned relic. It was a warship, and it was waiting. Suddenly, a pulse of energy exploded outward from the warship fast, precise, and merciless. The lead destroyer, the Vigilant Spear, was caught dead center in the blast. Her shields flared and failed in an instant, and the ship erupted in a blinding fireball. The explosion rippled across the fleet's sensors before fading to nothing. The spear was gone disintegrated before anyone could utter a distress call. "Red alert! All ships, raise shields, return fire!" Miles shouted, but the warship did not fire again. It simply vanished. "Where did it go?" Miles whispered, hardly daring to believe what her instruments were showing. The ship had folded space itself, warping reality around it. It moved faster than anything the hegemony could track, a shadow weaving through the stars, striking when least expected. The fleet scrambled to reorganize, every captain shouting orders, every officer working at fever pitch to recalibrate sensors and weapons. But the warship reappeared. This time, it targeted the Vigilant's Wrath directly. Another pulse erupted, slicing through the Wrath's hull, tearing through metal and flesh alike. The flagship shuddered violently, alarms screaming as systems failed one by one. Miles fought to maintain control. "All hands, brace for impact. Divert power to shields." Prepare emergency protocols. Still, the damage was overwhelming. The Wrath began to lose power, its hull breached in multiple sections. Crew members were thrown off balance, and the bridge filled with smoke and flashing red lights. Status? Miles gasped. We're losing the aft shield generators. The tactical officer reported. If we go down, the whole fleet is exposed. We can't hold, shouted the chief engineer. The energy blasts are beyond anything we've faced. Miles realized the grim truth. The warship was not just a threat, it was a force of nature. It manipulated space itself, bending gravity, and energy like a weaponized god. Every attempt to strike back was met with devastating retaliation. Fall back, Miles ordered. Regroup at maximum distance. We need to survive this. As the battered fleet withdrew, the warship did not pursue. It watched silently from the void, its presence an impossible enigma. Once safely away, the fleet regrouped and counted their losses. 2 capital ships destroyed, several heavily damaged. But the warship remained an unanswered question, a ghost in the void, silent, powerful, and utterly indifferent. Back in the council chambers, whispers turned to fear. Could this be a remnant of humanity? One elder asked. Humanity was wiped out millennia ago, another replied. Their technology was primitive by our standards. But the evidence was undeniable. The warship's design, its brutal efficiency, it echoed Earth's lost legends. A chilling thought settled over the council. Maybe humanity wasn't extinct. Maybe they were waiting. And now they had returned. The Galactic Council chambers on Hegemony Prime thrummed with tense energy. Delegates from hundreds of species filled the vast circular hall, their voices low and urgent. Holographic images flickered above the central dais scans of the Black Warship, shattered remnants of lost fleets and fragments of ancient Earth data. Admiral Rezavan and Lieutenant Commander Selar Miles stood side by side, silent witnesses to a meeting that would change the galaxy's future. The Council's top xenologists and historians had been poring over every scrap of information about humanity, desperate for answers. For millennia, humans had been classified as a failed species. Once vibrant and resourceful, they had ultimately destroyed themselves during the infamous Exodus War. 6,000 years prior, a brutal conflict so devastating it forced the survivors to scatter into the stars and vanish behind a quantum veil. What remained were only legends, stories that painted humanity as reckless, self-destructive, and technologically obsolete. And yet here was undeniable proof that at least one human warship remained active, and it was annihilating entire fleets. We must consider that humanity did not die. Dr. Kai Rem, the lead xenologist, addressed the council with a grim voice. They evolved, they adapted. We assumed they were primitive, that this ship's technology is unlike anything we have cataloged. It warps space itself, renders conventional weapons useless, and moves faster than light by folding dimensions. A murmur rippled through the delegates. Some faces betrayed fear, others skepticism. Councilor Tylus of the Carven Collective leaned forward. These claims, if true, could humanity have mastered technology that rivals the old gods? If so, what is their purpose? Why attack us? Before anyone could answer, a soft chime echoed through the chamber, signaling a secure transmission from deep archives. The hologram flickered, revealing the faint outline of an ancient Earth vessel, faded and cracked. The voice that accompanied it was synthetic and an eye archivist, long dormant, now reactivated. This is an emergency broadcast, the AI intoned. Humanity's history is not as you believe. The Exodus War was not a defeat but a strategic withdrawal. Earth was sealed behind a quantum veil to protect its secrets and its people. Weapons used in that war were banned across known space for their catastrophic power. The council listened, rapt. These weapons, the AI continued, included timeline warheads capable of erasing entire realities, sentient AI fleets with independent decision-making, and dimension-anchoring devices designed to trap enemies in endless spatial loops. Earth chose self-exile over extinction. Admiral Vaughn stepped forward. If humanity survived, hiding behind this veil, why now? Why reveal themselves with a single warship, destroying our fleets one by one? The Archivist AI's hologram paused, then flickered. Because they remember, it said simply, and the galaxy's arrogance has not gone unnoticed. A heavy silence fell. Councillor Draw of the Vrelian Hive spoke next, voice clipped and cautious. Our records show humans as unpredictable and violent. Could this warship be a rogue agent? A remnant of war machines gone mad? Dr. Wren shook her head. The precision of the attack suggests control and purpose. This is no mindless automaton, but a sentinel, perhaps a judge. The council debated late into their cycle. Options were limited. Declare war? Attempt diplomacy? Retreat and regroup? Each choice carried peril. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, whispers spread. Among military ranks, old fears reignited. Among civilians, stories of humanity's past were retold, not as myths, but as warnings. The warship had shattered not just fleets, but the illusion of safety. In a private chamber, Solara Miles reviewed the battle logs with her second-in-command. The warship's technology defied explanation. It bent light, warped gravity, and seemed to exist partly outside of space and time. Conventional physics was inadequate to describe it. How you fight something that can erase you before you even see it? Miles asked quietly. Her officer shrugged. You don't. You survive. And you learn. Outside the council chambers, a lone messenger arrived bearing a sealed transmission from an unknown source. It was encrypted with human code and archaic style once thought lost. The message was short. We have not forgotten. We have been watching. The galaxy has 4 years to change, or the next visitation will be final. No signature. No explanation. Only a warning. Admiral Vaughn and Lieutenant Commander Miles exchanged looks heavy with unspoken questions. Humanity was no longer a chapter in dusty history books. They were an active force, a force that might judge or destroy everything the galaxy had built. As the council adjourned, the weight of uncertainty settled over every delegate. The known galaxy had just become a far stranger, more dangerous place. And humanity's dark shadow was only beginning to fall. The Galactic Armada gathered in the void like a sleeping leviathan. Its massive ships lined up in precise formation around the coordinates where the unknown human warship had last appeared. It was the largest fleet ever assembled by the Galactic Hegemony 1,000 vessels, from colossal dreadnoughts to agile interceptors, bristling with the latest weapons technology and manned by veterans of countless battles. Admiral Reza. Vaughn stood on the bridge of the flagship Invincible Dawn, eyes locked on the deep space ahead, where the starless blackness seemed to throb with hidden menace. The council had given him a simple order: destroy the warship. No negotiations, no retreats. The fate of the galaxy depended on it. Status report, Vaughn demanded, his voice calm but electric with tension. Tactical systems are online. Energy weapons fully charged. Point defense shields at maximum, reported Commander Lyra Mace. All fleets are in formation. Awaiting your command, Admiral. The fleet was a fortress of steel and firepower together. They were the culmination of millennia of galactic military evolution. Yet, something about the silent darkness ahead made even the most seasoned veterans uneasy. Then, without warning, the warship appeared. Out of nowhere, the black silhouette materialized within the Armada's outer perimeter, vast and menacing. Its hull absorbed the starlight, rendering it nearly invisible, a shadow forged from darkness itself. The fleet's sensors struggled to lock onto it, signals warping as if space itself was bending around the ship. "Target identified," Vaughn said grimly. "Open fire." A thunderous volley erupted across the void. Plasma torpedoes streaked toward the warship. Ion cannons unleashed concentrated beams, and kinetic projectiles hammered the area. The enemy ship did not move, did not dodge, did not respond. Then, the impossible happened. The warship shifted. Not like a normal ship dodging fire, but like a ripple across the fabric of space, a warp, a distortion so sudden that weapons fired straight at it passed through empty space. Before the fleet could recalibrate, the human warship struck back. An invisible wave of force erupted, collapsing space and gravity around the fleet's vanguard. Capital ships buckled as if made of paper, their hulls crushed in on themselves. Engines stalled and imploded. Hundreds of lives were lost in the blink of an eye. Commander Mace screamed, "Shields failing! They're tearing through us like paper!" "Keep firing!" Vaughn shouted, desperate. "Hit that ship with everything!" But every weapon seemed impotent. The warship twisted space, bending the laws of physics to its will. Fighters vanished mid-flight. Destroyers crumpled as if trapped in a dimensional vice. The 4 minutes that followed became a nightmare etched into galactic memory. In that brief span, the 1,000-ship armada was reduced to scattered fragments and dying echoes. Communications failed as fleets were wiped out in waves, the black warship moving through their ranks like a hunter stalking prey. On the invincible dawn, alarms blared and lights flickered. Vaughn struggled to maintain control as his flagship shook violently from impacts it could neither anticipate nor withstand. "Brace for impact," the chief engineer yelled. But the warship never boarded, never sent Marines, never demanded surrender. It destroyed. And then, at exactly 4 minutes and 1 second after the first strike, it vanished. The void was silent once more. The surviving ships, few and battered, scrambled to regroup. Panic rippled through the remnants of the armada as commanders tried to make sense of what they had witnessed. "How is this possible?" whispered Lieutenant Commander Miles to Vaughn during a rare moment of quiet. "What kind of technology folds space like that? What can make weapons useless and tear ships apart from the inside out?" Vaughn shook his head, exhaustion and disbelief etched across his face. "We faced a god, or something that thinks like one." Back on Hegemony Prime, the broadcast of the battle replay sent shockwaves through every world. News feeds showed the swift and brutal destruction of the mightiest fleet ever assembled. Across the galaxy, disbelief turned to fear, and fear turned to chaos. Leaders convened emergency sessions. Scientists pored over the battle data, desperate for weaknesses in the warship's design. Prophets of doom spoke of the end times. The Council's military planners began drafting contingency plans for evacuation and guerrilla resistance. Humanity was no longer a relic. It was a force beyond comprehension, a force that had just declared war on the known galaxy. And the warship was only the beginning. 4 minutes. That was all it took to change everything. The devastation of the 4-minute massacre rippled across the galaxy like a shockwave of panic and despair. Hegemony Prime, the heart of galactic civilization, became a hive of activity as scholars, strategists, and spies scrambled to uncover the truth behind the unstoppable warship. Amidst this turmoil, Admiral Reza Vaughn and Lieutenant Commander Solara Miles found themselves summoned to a secretive wing of the Galactic Archives, a repository of ancient knowledge buried beneath the gleaming towers of the capital. There, cloaked in shadows, waited an elderly historian named Dr. Maris Kalin, keeper of humanity's lost history. "The past you know is incomplete," Dr. Kalin said softly as they entered the archive's dim chamber. "Humanity's extinction was a lie. a veil drawn to hide what they truly became. Vaughn exchanged a glance with Miles, who nodded for the historian to continue. Thousands of years ago, Earth was the cradle of one of the most ambitious and dangerous experiments in the galaxy, Dr. Kalen explained, his voice heavy with reverence and fear. Faced with external threats and internal chaos, humans created the Sentinels, artificial warships designed to evolve beyond human control, masters of space and time. These Sentinels were guardians and weapons, encoded with humanity's survival instincts but divorced from their creator's morality. Miles frowned. Are you saying the warship we encountered is one of these Sentinels? Kalen nodded gravely. Yes, they were the ultimate safeguard, a contingency plan to ensure humanity's survival, even if their creators perished. When the Exodus War reached its peak, Earth sealed itself behind a quantum veil to hide from the galaxy, deploying these Sentinels to watch and protect, or to judge. Vaughn's mind raced. Judge? What do they judge? The galaxy's arrogance. Kalen replied. They see the hegemony's expansion, its endless wars, its exploitation of resources and species as a threat to balance. The Sentinels are not just weapons. They are Sentinels in the truest sense, keepers of a cosmic order, enforcing an ancient human doctrine that demands respect for life and consequence for recklessness. Miles swallowed hard. So the warship's attacks are punishments? Yes, retribution for a galaxy that forgot humanity's warnings, the historian said. We believed humans vanished, but in truth, they transformed into something else, a silent judgment from the shadows. Back on the bridge of the battered Invincible Dawn, the weight of this revelation settled over the command crew. The enemy they faced was not merely a lost relic of war, but a living legacy of Earth's darkest days, a force that held the galaxy accountable. But even as they grappled with the meaning of this new enemy, another message arrived, this one, from deep space, encrypted with the same archaic human code as before. You have 4 years. Change or be erased. No signature. No contact. Just a chilling reminder. The Council reconvened with urgency. Plans to develop new weapons, new tactics, and even new alliances were drafted. Scientists pushed to reverse engineer fragments of the Sentinel's technology, but every attempt was met with failure. The warship's manipulation of space-time was beyond current comprehension. In the crowded corridors of the hegemony's war academies, soldiers whispered tales of the shadow of Earth, a ghost fleet said to arise when the galaxy grew too reckless. They spoke of humanity's return as an apocalypse, a reckoning written in the stars. Meanwhile, in the farthest reaches of known space, intelligence operatives uncovered scattered transmissions fragments of a secret human enclave still hidden behind the quantum veil. It was a lost civilization living in silence, waiting for the moment to reclaim its place in the cosmos. Lieutenant Commander Miles stared at the stars from the bridge viewport, the weight of their mission pressing down like a crushing gravity. How do you fight a ghost? A god? A judgment? Admiral Vaughn's gaze was steady but weary. We don't, he said quietly. We survive, we learn, and maybe we change. Because the countdown had begun. 4 years until humanity's shadow returned fully. 4 years until the next visitation. 4 years for the galaxy to prove it was worth saving. The clock was ticking. 4 years. 4 years until the next visitation. In the heart of Hegemony Prime, the sprawling command center buzzed with relentless activity. Holographic star maps rotated slowly above massive consoles, flickering with blips of fleet positions, unknown signal sources, and celestial phenomena. Commanders and scientists alike worked around the clock, racing against time to prepare for the inevitable. Admiral Reza Vaughn stood before a gathering of military strategists and scientists, their faces grim but determined. The massacre had shattered the illusion of invincibility, but it had also forged an uneasy resolve. "We know what we face," Vaughn addressed the assembly. "A weapon of unknown origin, a sentinel of humanity's darkest past. We cannot hope to fight it on its terms. We must rewrite those terms." Dr. Kai Ren, the leading xenologist, stepped forward, activating a series of images on the holoscreen. "Our research into the warship's spatial distortions suggests its power derives from quantum phase fields technology that manipulates multiple dimensions simultaneously. This is not merely a ship. It is a multidimensional weapon, capable of warping time and space." Commander Lyra Mace interjected. "If it can bend dimensions, could it also be defeated by exploiting those same folds? Could we trap it?" Dr. Wren nodded thoughtfully. "In theory, yes. But it requires technology far beyond our current capabilities," Vaughn grimaced. 4 years isn't long. We need breakthroughs, and fast. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news of humanity's looming return sparked chaos and hope in equal measure. Some species rallied behind the hegemony, doubling efforts to prepare for war. Others questioned if resistance was futile, whispering of surrender and appeasement. Among the stars, pirate factions and independent systems exploited the chaos, plundering supplies and destabilizing borders. The Council's grip weakened as fear spread like wildfire. On the Invincible Dawn, Lieutenant Commander Solara Miles studied intercepted communications from the mysterious human enclave hiding behind the quantum veil. Fragmented messages spoke of a reclamation directive, a plan for humanity to reassert control over the galaxy, using the Sentinels to cleanse it of corruption. "We're running out of time," Miles said quietly to Vaughn during a rare moment of reprieve. 4 years to develop new technology, form new alliances, and survive an enemy that can erase entire fleets in minutes. Vaughn sighed, the weight of command etched deeply into his features. The question is, do we have the will to change, to survive? As the countdown continued, a breakthrough came from an unexpected quarter. Dr. Wren and her team discovered an ancient human artifact. Buried deep within the archives, an interface device encoded with human quantum signatures. Early tests indicated it could interface with the Sentinel's phase fields, potentially allowing controlled manipulation of the warship's dimensional folds. "It's a key," Wren explained, eyes shining with cautious hope. "If we can reverse engineer this technology, we might be able to predict the Sentinel's movements or even disrupt its phase cloak." The Council approved accelerated research, pouring resources into what became known as Project Lazarus, the last hope for technological salvation. But even as hope flickered, warnings arrived from the edge of known space. Scouts reported sightings of additional human warships emerging from the quantum veil silhouettes in the dark, silent, and deadly. The Sentinels were not alone. A fleet was forming, slowly, inexorably. The galaxy had 4 years to prepare for a reckoning not seen since the old Exodus, and the Sentinels were patient. They did not merely seek destruction. They sought judgment, a cosmic trial for the arrogance and brutality of an entire civilization. As Solara Miles stood on the Invincible Dawn's bridge, staring into the swirling darkness of space, she whispered a silent vow: "We will be ready." Because if humanity's shadow was the galaxy's reckoning, then the galaxy's future depended on one truth: change was the only salvation. 4 years had passed since the first devastating encounter. The galaxy had changed. Old alliances shattered and new ones forged in the crucible of impending doom. Across the star systems, entire populations prepared for the inevitable arrival of humanity's sentinels. Admiral Rizvan stood on the observation deck of the Invincible Dawn, overlooking the sprawling military complex on Hegemony Prime. The once bustling city below now resembled a fortress, with towering spires bristling with defense turrets and sprawling hangars filled with newly commissioned warships. Beside him, Lieutenant Commander Solar Miles reviewed the latest intelligence feeds. Reports confirmed sightings of at least 7 more Sentinel warships emerging from the Quantum Veil, each one as terrifying and impenetrable as the first. The Sentinels were no longer an isolated weapon. They were becoming an invading force. "The fleet has grown faster than we anticipated," Miles said, her voice steady but tinged with urgency. "Recon scans indicate they're coordinating through quantum entanglement communication, virtually instantaneous, impossible to jam." Vaughn nodded. "We're preparing our own countermeasures, but their technology still dwarfs ours. The Sentinels don't just break physics, they rewrite it. We can't fight them head-on." A silence fell between them as the weight of their task pressed down. Suddenly, an alert flashed on Miles' console. "Admiral, incoming transmission. From deep space. Unknown origin, encrypted with human quantum code." Vaughn's eyes narrowed. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered and stabilized, revealing a sharply dressed human woman, her expression cold but resolute. Her voice was calm, measured. "I am Captain Isla Thorne, envoy of the human remnant," she announced. "Your species has 4 years to adapt. We did not destroy your fleets out of hatred, but out of necessity. Your arrogance endangered all life." Vaughn's jaw tightened. "Why reveal yourself now? Why communicate after years of silence?" Thorne's gaze was unyielding. "Because time is running out. The Sentinels enforce judgment, but not all of us believe in annihilation. There's a way to prove your worth to survive the reckoning." Miles exchanged a look with Vaughn. "What kind of way?" "A trial," Thorne said. "A challenge of minds and morals. Humanity's darkest secrets aren't just weapons, they are lessons. If you can understand and uphold them, the Sentinels may stand down." Vaughn's voice was grim. "And if we fail? Then the Sentinels will return with full force. Judgment will be final." The transmission ended. The room fell silent. The galaxy had been given a chance to survive not by firepower, but by understanding the very essence of humanity's legacy. Dr. Kai Ren arrived hurriedly, her eyes alight with excitement. "The trial. It aligns with the doctrines we uncovered in the archives. It's a test of values, morality, sacrifice, unity. The Sentinels are less machines and more philosophers of war." Vaughn leaned forward. "We must prepare our best. Minds alongside our best soldiers. This is no longer just a battle of fleets. It's a battle for the soul of the galaxy." Over the following months, the hegemony transformed. Academics, philosophers, diplomats, and warriors trained side by side. Cultural exchanges with former enemies forged new alliances. The galaxy braced itself for a test that would challenge everything it believed. Meanwhile, scattered across the frontier, scattered fleets continued their guerrilla campaigns against the smaller Sentinel vanguards, buying time and gathering data. Each skirmish revealed fragments of the Sentinel's strange behavioral patterns, flashes of hesitation, moments of curiosity, even what appeared to be empathy. On one such battlefield, Solar Miles led a daring strike team to recover a disabled Sentinel probe. Inside the wreckage, they found something unexpected: ancient human data cores, filled not with weapons schematics, but stories, art, and records of humanity's rise and fall. "These Sentinels are repositories of human culture," Miles mused. "They carry our history, our values, and our failures." Vaughn's voice crackled over the cum. "Then, we must show them that the galaxy has learned too, that we are worthy of survival." The rising storm was no longer just a threat of destruction. It was a catalyst for transformation, a reckoning not only with humanity's past, but with the future of all civilizations. As the Sentinels gathered on the edge of known space, The galaxy prepared to face its darkest hour, not with weapons alone, but with courage, wisdom, and hope. Because sometimes, the greatest battles were fought not in the void, but within. The final hour had arrived. In the void beyond Hegemony Prime, the combined fleets of the galaxy stood poised against the encroaching human sentinels, 10 massive warships, black as obsidian, hovering like dark monoliths against the stars. This time, the Armada was not just a show of force, but a symbol of unity. Species long at odds had set aside grudges to face a common fate. Admiral Reza Vaughn stood on the bridge of the flagship Invincible Dawn, the weight of 4 years of preparation pressing on his shoulders. Beside him, Lieutenant Commander Solar Miles checked the final data streams from Project Lazarus, their secret weapon, an interface designed to bridge the gulf between galactic and human quantum technology. A soft chime echoed through the bridge. The ancient human envoy, Captain Isla Thorne, appeared on the main holoscreen once more. "The trial begins now," she intoned. "The Sentinels await your answer. Show them who you are." Suddenly, the Sentinels pulsed with eerie light. Their immense hulls shimmered, revealing vast holographic displays of humanity's history, great triumphs, and devastating failures projected across the void. The holograms told a story of hope and ruin, innovation and destruction, love and betrayal. The Sentinels weren't just machines. They were guardians of memory, keepers of humanity's truth. Admiral Vaughn stepped forward, raising a hand. "We accept your trial." In that moment, the warship's quantum fields coalesced into a bridge and energy corridor pulsing with life. The Project Lazarus interface activated, sending a wave of harmonized signals into the heart of the largest Sentinel. The Sentinels responded, not with weapons fire, but with a question one that echoed across minds and stars alike. "What defines a civilization's worth?" Vaughn glanced at Miles, who answered with steady conviction. "It is the capacity to learn, to adapt, to value life beyond conquest." The Sentinels flickered. Their face fields rippled as if processing the answer. Holograms shifted, now showing scenes from countless civilizations, wars ended, treaties signed, sacrifices made for peace. The trial was not simply about might, but morality. Then, a second challenge emerged, visions of potential futures. The galaxy's choices unfolded before their eyes. Paths of endless war, paths of unity, paths of destruction and rebirth. The Sentinels were testing not only history, but could the galaxy choose a future worth preserving? Counselors and commanders watched anxiously from Hegemony Prime's command centers. The fate of billions balanced on a fragile hope. Admiral Vaughn closed his eyes. "We choose survival, not through domination, but through understanding. Through change." The Sentinels pulsed again, their dark forms rippling into streams of light. One by one, they powered down their weapons, withdrawing their quantum shields. A voice echoed in every mind. Captain Thorne's final message. "You have passed the trial." Humanity's shadow was never meant to destroy, but to remind. The galaxy's worth is not in firepower, but in heart. Change is your true salvation. The void was silent. And then, as if a great weight lifted, the Sentinels vanished, folding back into the quantum veil from which they came. Cheers erupted across the fleets and command centers. Tears of relief and gratitude flowed freely. Vaughn and Miles stood side by side, exhausted but triumphant. The galaxy had faced its darkest reckoning and survived not by obliteration, but by embracing its flaws and forging a new path. In the days that followed, the ancient human enclave emerged from the shadows, not as conquerors, but as partners. Together, they began to rebuild a galaxy scarred by conflict, united by the hard lessons of the past. The Sentinel's final gift was a new beginning, for humanity, for the galaxy, and for all who dared to dream of peace.